continue Bezrat Hashem in the fourth lesson in chapter 7. Ze Pirush, and this is what it says in Mishlei, chapter 16. Chamat melech malchei mavet, ki chamato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu bishvil ha-malchut sheishpil al yedei avonotav. So this pasuk says, basically, I'm going to read over here what it's talking about, a little bit before and after. So he says, To'avat melachim asot resha, ki bitzdaka yikon kiseh. That To'ava is something that's a disgrace, like something bad. For the malchut, for a person's malchut, is asot resha, meaning in order to fix and build the kingdom, the malchut, right? So it's a really bad thing, asot resha, when a person is, everything he's doing is like bad. He's just putting himself down all the time. The reason why is ki bitzdaka yikon kiseh, that the chair, right, the chair of the malchut, the reason it's called kiseh is because, it's the same way like Hashem can't sit on the throne, sit on the throne of kingdom unless the entire nation, right, the entire world is, recognizing that God is king, right? When is Hashem sit on his king? It says when we came out of Egypt, when Am Yisrael, the nation, came out, splitting of the sea, right? And we started singing the song, Az Yasher Moshe, so it says over there that then Hashem, same, like the Malchut, the kingdom of Hashem was like Hashem was Kiviyachal sitting on his chair. So the same thing with a human being, there's that aspect of sitting on top of the chair, meaning when a person's mind, he becomes like a Adam, like a complete human, meaning his mind is completely in control, his whole body, everything becomes a chariot for holiness, right? So that's called sitting on the chair. So the way it's done, Shlomo Melech says, Ki b'tzedakah yikon kiseh, through tzedakah, through justifying a person, oneself, right, in all of his actions, everything he does, through that, the chair will be, there'll be a chair to sit on. That'll be the existence, the kiyum, the existence, I'm not sure what the word is, for the chair. So that's why the ta'ava, the opposite of that is people who do bad, meaning asot resha. Again, it's because of I wouldn't understand it this way, but because Reb Nachman, this is his whole thing about it. Everything's talking about the fixing of the speech and these two different ways of the destruction by putting yourself down, speaking negative, right? And the building of your kingdom is the exact opposite of always speaking good and finding those little points of tzaddik, justifying yourself. Retzon melachim siftei tzedek, the desire or the ratzon of kingdom, of kings, is lips of tzedek, lips that justify. V'dover yesharim yehav, and he who speaks straight pathways in his speech. Meaning that this is talking kind of like about that mishpat, where a person always takes the words of prayer and everything, and he makes sure to use them in the exact center line, and not they shouldn't go off. So God loves that yehav. And then it says the pasuk that we're talking about, Chamat melech malchei mavet ve'ish chacham yichaprena. So Rabbeinu says that the malchut, all those sparks of holiness that fell into the klipa, into the other side, because of a person's sins, because of the things he did wrong, that's where this anger comes from God, kiviyachol. It's not an anger because of the sins, it's an anger because of all that holiness, all those sparks, those, what the prophets call them, the orphans, and the widows and the orphans and all these, these souls basically that are stuck from within the other side in this captivity, and they need to be redeemed. So this is where the anger, it's not that God is angry, but there's the bina, like we explained one time. I'll just explain it quickly. The bina, right, which is, we have the chokhmah, and then there's the bina. So the bina is called the mother, she's called ima, and then the malchut, which is the king, the creation that Hashem created, that's the malchut, that's called the daughter. So ima u'barta, the mother and daughter. And they both come from the aspect of judgment, because they're both receivers. The bina is the feminine aspect of the mind, right? So the chokhmah is like the giver, right? The male aspect, and the bina is the receiver. So because it's a receiver, so it has an aspect of judgment. It has dinim, because it depends on getting its light from outside. So from itself, it doesn't have any light. So that's the aspect of the bina. And then the malchut is the same way. The malchut also comes from judgment and din. That's why the creation the kingdom of Hashem is called the letter Daled, right? If the letter Daled is that poor letter that doesn't have, it comes from the word Dala, which means poor, doesn't have light from itself until you take that little Yud and you put it into the Daled and it becomes a Hey, right? So then that's like the Hey is the 5 books of the Torah, the whole thing we spoke about, the wind, the 5 lobes there are on the lungs. So basically, when this process doesn't get done, and the sparks of holiness, right, get stuck in the other side because of a person's mistakes, what happens is it creates a judgment. There's no sweetening of the judgment in the Bina, and what happens is judgment just comes down into the world. Like at the golden calf, there was like judgment, right? The judgment, the midah of judgment, wanted to wipe out, the nation. So the way to sweeten that judgment is by bringing up this hishtoikut, this yearning that the malchut, the daughter, is like yearning to be close and wants to come and reunify. So the way to do that is by do the whole process of vidui, of taking these words, of Torah and bringing them up in prayer, and through that a person does this reunification, and that reunification between the daughter and the mother creates this sweetening of all the judgments, and all goodness comes down. So until then, there's all these judgments and dinim that are up in the Bina. So Nachman says that this Kivyachal, what's the thing that fixes it? The Ish Chacham, Shlomo Melech says that there's this judgment, right, because of all the sparks of holiness that are stuck on the other side. The Ish Chacham Yichaperena. And it says that a person that is a Chacham, a wise person, can wipe out the decree. He can make everything, like Moshe Rabbeinu went Mount Sinai and he wiped out the decree. There was an Am Yisrael, and Mordechai and Shushan, the time of Haman, and so on. All the tzaddikim, right, are always the ones that are wiping out all the decrees. So, Hainu, so Reb Nachman is saying, what's this Ish Chacham? What's Shlomo Melech teaching us? That a Ish Chacham, a person who's wise, he can wipe out the judgment. Hainu, it's the aspect of the Talmid Chacham, the aspect of Moshe that we spoke about, right? So it's this aspect of this Nekuda of Chacham, this point, all your candles, all your points of good, which is your true essence, that's what could flip the entire judgment. Like when you bring the sin before Hashem, the thing you did wrong, and you find that one little Talmid Chacham, that one, you use your dot, your Moshe Rabbeinu, to focus, to redeem yourself now from get out of Egypt. And the way you do it is by finding that little Talmid Chacham, that little Nekuda of mitzvah of good, and judging the whole thing favorably. That's what will make the decree. That's what will take you out of the judgment, and Hashem will forgive you. Like it says in Micha, "Ve'over al pesha lish'erit, le'mi shemesim atzmo keshirayim." That Hashem forgives a person. What's the thing that Hashem is looking for? The she'erit, a person who puts himself like shirayim, which means that shirayim, that little bit, whatever it is, he finds the little nekudas of good, even if it's a little bit of leftovers, and he's mostly bad, but there's a little bit of shirayim, he focuses on that, and that's his essence, and he only looks at that. God forgives for everything. Nimtza ksheba lifnei talmid chacham. So we see that when a person comes before a talmid chacham, meaning he's coming and bringing his sins, he's bringing his things before Hashem in a confession to the face of the Talmid Chacham. He's focusing just on those points of good. Umotzi kol tzirufav lifnei Talmid Chacham, and he's bringing out all the combinations of letters of everything that he could remember that he did wrong. Right? Like we said, every time you do it, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, you bring whatever parts of that thing that's holding you back, all those things that you have in your mind that are bothering you and holding you back, you bring them. He brings all those tzilufim, you bring them out to the face of the Talmid Chacham. And the Talmid Chacham, which is the aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu, like we explained in the last lesson, shemesim atzmo keshirayim, k'mo shekatuv, v'ha'ish Moshe anav meod. So Moshe Rabbeinu is this aspect of the person who puts himself like shirayim. He's like that tiny little bit, that's his essence. That's what he looks at. He doesn't look at anything bad. So Moshe Rabbeinu had that he had that aspect, the way he looked at himself. and he had it obviously the way he looked at the nation. You can see it that he always, whenever anything happened in the nation throughout all the years in the desert, and that we see that Moshe Rabbeinu would always straight away jump and just look at their good, find the little bits of good, whatever it was, and always got them out of whatever judgment that they went through. Every time there was a decree on them in one of the tests in the desert, Moshe Rabbeinu was always right there like that faithful shepherd to save them from falling into the decree. And the way he did it was by being that aspect that he is, right, which is each one of us. That that little point of using your power of your mind to focus just on your essence, just on the positive and on the good, because everything else is not your true essence. It's just a test. And like it says, Ve'a'ish Moshe anav mod. So the Torah specifically says Ve'a'ish Moshe, and it's talking about over there when Aaron and Miriam, says they spoke about some lashon hara. Miriam came and spoke about Moshe Rabbeinu and told Aaron, why did he leave his wife? He separated from his wife, and then Hashem calls, tells Moshe calls Miriam and Aaron. They go to the tent, and then Hashem takes Miriam and Aaron aside and speaks to them, and says that my Moshe Rabbeinu is not like other prophets. When I come and speak to them, I speak to them through parables or while they're sleeping. But Moshe Rabbeinu, I speak to him face to face, right? And he's Va'ish Moshe anav ma'od, right? He's the most humble person in the entire, from everyone on earth. So it's talking about lashon hara. We see that she spoke lashon hara. It's the blemish of the speech. And also the Ish Moshe, just a reminder, we mentioned this, but just it's important to remember, whenever there's the combination, what it's coming to teach us when it says the word Ish, and then it says Moshe, right, or Yaakov Ish Tam, right, Ish Yehudi, there was an Ish Yehudi b'Shushana Bira with Mordechai. They're always connecting, right, Ele Toldot Noach, Noach Ish Tzadik. So there's always the Ish is connected to the Tzadik. It's talking about the Ish is the physical body, right? The person's physical body, that chariot that was given to him in order so that he can get to that level of fixing his entire kingdom, revealing godliness from within the world with a physical body. So the shleimut, the completion of a person, is with the ish. He needs also the physical part. His soul needs that body in order to be able to do the will of Hashem in the world, reveal godliness, and the only way to do it is with that body. And the word ish, if you look at the word ish, it has the letters aleph, yud, and then shin. Right, so we said that the letter Aleph is the whole secret, basically, everything we've been talking about, of this reunification between the Chet and the Nun, the head and the heart, with the Vav, the letter Vav that ties the two together. Right, the letter Vav is that aspect of Yaakov Avinu, that we said is the aspect of the Torah, and Yaakov Avinu, because the whole Torah comes out of the sphere of Tiferet, which is Yaakov, the 12 tribes, the entire nation that received the Torah. That's the Aleph, and then the little Yud is the aspect of the Tzaddik, like Yosef HaTzaddik, which is that tiny little point of mitzvah that you're going to find in anything you look at in a negative way, or some stuff you did against the Torah, or whatever. You find that little Yud, and the Shin, the last letter Shin, corresponds to the forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, which we said is that covenant, right? Remembering that covenant, that little Yud, Tzaddik, right, that little point that you focus on, and through that you judge the entire thing favorably. That's the covenant that God made with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and that's the reason why it works. Otherwise it wouldn't make any sense. So you have to have that aspect. If you don't remember that, there's no way you would be able to come to this state of, confessing on things that you did, you did 100% wrong, right? Like, what's there to, how could you get out of the judgment? So it's always leaning on to those 13 attributes of mercy. And that's also why Moshe is his name is Mem, Shin, Hey, right? So the Mem and the Hey, the two letters that are surrounding Moshe, is numerical value of Adam. But the Shlemut, the completion, right, 45, Mem and Hey, 45 is Adam, which means man, and the completion is that he has the Shin from the center. So that's why we see also in Moshe Rabbeinu's throughout the desert, and he's always leaning onto the forefathers. Whenever there's a decree in Am Yisrael, remember Hashem, the covenant you made with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Like, it's always this aspect. So that's Moshe Rabbeinu, which means like your da'at, your wisdom, right, which is your Moshe Rabbeinu from within you, has to have that shin enrooted from within it, right, which is that covenant a covenant of I can't understand, right? This is a covenant Hashem made with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that this is just how his level of mercy is that he's going to forgive us no matter what, as long as we take that side of the of the tzaddik. So that's why the Torah emphasizes and it says that Ish Moshe Anav Meod, that the humility of Moshe Rabbeinu, right, which was talking about a person when he's coming before Hashem with his sins, the things he did bad, he's coming with his physical body, which is the aspect of Ish, right? That's the Ish, because Esav was called Ish. So he's coming with his physical body. He's coming with Moshe, right? Moshe, which is his da'at, right? His da'at is not knowledge. It's whatever the da'at is. I can't remember the name. I should probably write them down. And then it's Anav Me'od. Right? The third one is Anav, which is humble. But what's his humility? It's from Me'od. So Me'od, we already said that Me'od is the Yetzer Hara. Me'od is Malach HaMavet. Me'od is all the things that a person falls in. Right? The test that Hashem gave you, right? Yeah, you have a physical body, but there's from within you have a Yetzer Hara. And that Yetzer Hara, his job is to try and make you, give you all the challenges you need in order to get you up to where you need to get, right? By overcoming it. So Moshe Rabbeinu, right, this aspect is, he's Anav Me'od. The reason why he has this ability to wipe out any sort of sins or any decrees, he has this power from within him, is because he has all these aspects together. He has the Ish, Moshe, and Anav. Where is he Anav? He has that humility, he puts his head down, says, I don't understand, right? That how could it be that the Yetzer Hara overcame me in this thing? I don't understand how it's possible that Hashem could forgive me for it. But he doesn't ask those questions. That's his humility. That this is the covenant. I don't understand it. This is the covenant. So he wipes himself out completely. Because if a person starts thinking, like, I did the sin, and he thinks that there's no way he can go through this process. So that's why a person like that is called a Ish Chacham. A person who can take wisdom, right? And he gets more and more wisdom. And we said that, like Shlomo Melech said, that a Ish Chacham could wipe out any decrees, right? And could redeem all the sparks of holiness from the sins and the things I did wrong. Only a Ish Chacham could do it. So Moshe Rabbeinu, because he's a Ish, right, this humble, right, and he looks at it the way we said, so he's in this category of a Ish Chacham, right? That power from within my mind could redeem it. Like it says in Iyov, V'chochma me'ayin timatzeh, that wisdom, true wisdom, only comes from ayin. Ayin, when a person says, I don't understand. Like it says, I wrote over here, it's from the Gemara of Sotah 21. Rabbi Yochanan says, En divrei Torah mitkamim ela b'mi shemesim atzmo kemi she'eno yodea. Torah can only exist with someone who puts himself in a state of like, I don't know, I have no idea. How could it be that Hashem could forgive for this? I don't know. That's just what it is, right? You have to be in this state of ayin. As soon as I know, I'm creating barriers for more understanding, right? When I come to a class and I think, the topic's a certain thing, and I learned it really well, and I think I really know this topic, I already blocked myself 80-90% blocked off from receiving whatever the guy's going to give over. But when I come to a place like a complete, I don't know anything, right? And I'm coming to learn whatever you tell me right, you tell me left, right? So you're coming with your vessel is completely open. You could receive. So in order to be able to receive Torah, right, and go in the pathway of tzaddikim, like Moshe Rabbeinu, like Yaakov Avinu, right, all these tzaddikim who all have the aspect of the Ish with them. The Torah tells us they are all called Yaakov Ish Tam, is because they had this type of, like Yaakov had this tmimut, simplicity, and that simplicity was his completion, was his shleimut. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the most humble in the entire world. Why? Because he had this type of like, I don't understand, right? God's running the world. Like I had to grow up in Pharaoh's house and then get chased out of Egypt and go through his whole thing. Yosef HaTzadik, what he went through, right? Down to Egypt, 10 years in jail. Like, they didn't ask questions. Everything Hashem is doing, I don't understand the way God's running the world. But they just had this type of like simplicity, and without, not coming with I understand how it's supposed to be, and I know, should be like this, and it's not like that, and because so a person feels like, yeah, I should be doing this, this, and that, right? And I'm falling in it. And yeah, the truth is I could have overcame it, right? And he starts knocking himself because if I really wanted to overcome it, I could overcome it, right? That's all coming with his chokhmas. He's coming in there with chokhmah. He's blocking all the ways to be able to approach the process of tshuva. He's blocking them, because the only way to do it is by wiping out his da'at. I don't understand how it's possible that this Hashem could forgive me for these sins that I've been doing for 30 years by me finding a little point of mitzvah from within it. But that's what the Torah is teaching us, like we said a few times already with the golden calf, and there's lots of other examples where big decrees got wiped out because of one, two little things. Hashem redeems the entire nation from Egypt because a couple of small mitzvahs, because we're going to receive the Torah in the future. So that's the only way a person could really approach the gateways of tshuva. He has to come with this complete, like, I don't understand how the world's running. I don't understand how it's possible that level of mercy can even exist. But that's what it is. And I accept it, and because of that I'm moving forward in that process. Chokhmah, like it says in Iyov, that the true chokhmah comes from ayin, when a person just realizes he doesn't understand, right? Ubazeh yesh koach, and through this yesh koach la talmid chacham lechaper. That talmid chacham, that little nekuda of mitzvah, that one little candle you find of zchut, of mitzvah from within the sin itself, it only has its strength to flip the entire judgment, that it should get flipped and turn into good, and you should redeem all those sparks of kedusha that have been stuck there for who knows how many years. It only has the strength when a person comes in with that humility, with that place of like, I don't understand anything. Like it says, Ve'ish chacham yechaperena, that the ish chacham has the power to mechaper and wipe out the sin, but it has to be a ish chacham, right? It can't be as you come with your body, right? And your body is the chariot, right? But this is the chariot that fell in this thing because of your lusts and your bad characteristics, or what. You bring your body and say, Hashem, I'm coming before you. I'm speaking, right? The words are coming from my essence, from my bone. My essence is my neshama that I got when I was 13. But I'm coming also with my physical body, which is supposed to be a chariot to do everything you say. But it fell because of the taiva and so on. It fell, right? And you're coming, you just don't, any thoughts you have, like, you wipe out all your thoughts. Any thoughts that come to a person, how could it be that I could do tshuva on this? I'm really like lying before Hashem. Like, what am I playing games? I'm coming to ask forgiveness for this thing, and I know, like, I don't have the strength to overcome it tomorrow. I'm probably going to continue doing it because I've been doing it for 20 years. How could I, he doesn't, you can't, look, you just wipe all that out like it doesn't exist and move forward. Take the thing, you do the process of tshuva, you go on. You fall again, you do it again. You fall again, you do it again. 1,000 times. Sheva yipol tzaddik. It says 7 times a tzaddik falls and he gets up every time. 7, why 7? They could have said 6, 10. 7 is talking about the 7 days of creation. Your entire life. Your whole life. Whatever. Your whole life. You're going up, down, up, down. That's life. And you're doing tshuva. And one day you got to come out of it. Hashem says, okay, he did it. He did it enough times. He fell enough. He redeemed the sparks. That's it. He's out. And that thing disappears. The person comes out of it. ובשביל זה כשהתפלל משה על חטא העגל אמר אם תישא חטאתם ואם אין מחנינה. So Moshe Rabbeinu, for this reason we see Moshe Rabbeinu when he came to pray to Hashem for the golden calf, when they did the golden calf, so he tells Hashem im tisa chatatam, if you forgive them, if you don't forgive them for the sin, then wipe me out from the book. Mechenina. It's impossible that a person won't get some pride, some gaiva, right? Some, existence from himself, right? Like that he exists. When he hears that they're always speaking about his praising him, right? Kol sheken shemelech, right? That's if just people are praising him. Or people come and praising him, right? So he feels, he gets like some pride out of it. Even more so if a big king is coming and praising him in front of him. It's impossible that he won't get from it pride. But in order to be able to not get any pride whatsoever from it, you have to be completely, not have all your physicality needs to be wiped out completely. Meaning you can't give your physical physicalness, your physical body, you can't give it any attention. Say, I'm not paying attention to, what all those thoughts and that my Yetzer Hara is trying to tell. I'm not out of the picture. So when a person does that and he has that type of humility, a person like that who gets to that level could hear his praises, when people are praising him or a king is praising him, and he won't have any gadlut, he won't feel any pride from that. Like Moshe Rabbeinu, that he saw was written in the Torah, that Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Jews are, saying, every day they're reading in the Torah the Shevach of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the praise of Moshe Rabbeinu, and he himself is telling them all of his praises, right? The Torah is filled with Moshe Rabbeinu, and he actually was a human being, right? Bringing the Torah and saying all these stuff that it's about him. He himself has to tell them, right, all of his praises. He didn't feel any greatness or pride through this. Like it says, Ish Moshe anav meod. Torah says specifically that the Ish Moshe, the man Moshe, was very humble. He was humble from meod. Because of this level of humility that he had, right, he had the power to wipe out the golden calf. Like it says, that a person, a man who's a chacham, right, like Shlomo Melech said in Mishlei, he has the power to wipe out the sin. So Reb Nachman's bringing this story now from the Torah just to teach us, this is what the Torah is teaching us about this whole idea where we did the golden calf, right? The nation, which is from the neck down, did the golden calf. It's all my list of sins and things that a person did wrong, right? So now the Torah is telling us that Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to the mountain and he's debating with Hashem and telling Hashem, if I'm a chacham, right? If I have this complete humility, right? If I'm not completely humble, then take me out from the book. I don't want to be, because it's impossible that I won't get some gaiva, some pride, from hearing my praises and hearing how great I am. So you have to be completely wiped out. Let's just continue it, because I was going to give this part, but I didn't read it yet. And this is what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Hashem, v'im ayin, and if I'm not so humble, hainu im lo tisach hatatam, right? If I don't have that humility and you're not going to forgive them, so you're showing me by that she'eni kol kach anivut, that I don't have that level of humility that you need in order to wipe out the sin. So my request is, if I don't have that level of humility that you need, because it says v'ish chacham yichaperena, a person who has this level of humility can wipe out the sin. If I don't have that level, then take me out, wipe me out from the book. I don't want to be written. He didn't want to fall in feeling, gadlut and pride. I hear it every moment, these praises and talking about Moshe, and Moshe is the most humble, and Moshe this and Moshe that, right? Who could stand in a test like that, where they're hearing all their praises and not get pride from it? If not a person who's completely humble and has no, doesn't feel himself as anything. And if I have that level of humility, then you have to wipe out their sin. Like it says, like we said earlier, that a person, Hashem forgives a person who has that sherit. He has that little sherit. It means it's like shiraim. There's a little bit, leftovers, right? So even though the leftovers is those little point of mitzvah, right? A little something of mitzvah. So it's basically what he's teaching is the whole thing that we've been learning up until now, is that the power Moshe Rabbeinu was teaching that in order to wipe out the sin of the chet ha'egel, the golden calf, that the whole nation did this huge sin, it depended on Moshe Rabbeinu basically finding that tiny little nekuda, right? That little mitzvah, which is that aspect of Moshe, that aspect of the Ish Chacham, right? That has that power to wipe out everything and flip the entire judgment, right? So it depends on believing in that. And the only way that you can believe in that is if you really feel like you're humble. You don't have any, say from yourself on how you think it should be, what the right way is, right? You have to that's what it is. Hashem made this covenant, and we just have to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, this is what he swore to them on his name, right? And they swore on Hashem's name about this covenant. So that's what it is, and a person just goes with that, and he does this process, and through that he wipes out the golden calf. That's basically what it's teaching. It's a little bit poor the way I explained it, but Zat Hashem, maybe we'll go over that part a different time. So another little part here, V'zeu vayhi b'shurun melech. It says in Devarim, Hainu shemalchut ala leshorsha. So vayhi b'shurun melech is talking about when the Malchut, the kingdom of holiness, gets uplifted and goes back up to its root, which means all those sparks of holiness get redeemed from the other side. Like it says, Va'anavim yirshu aretz, that humble people will inherit the land. So inheriting the land depends on humility, because like we said, if a person doesn't have that humility, there's no way he would be able to come before Hashem and bring a tiny little good deed, one little good thing, and try get out of like these big sin stuff he's been doing for years, like what's this little thing, and you have to have, in order to, he's just bringing now, showing from Devarim, the last book of the Torah, that Moshe Rabbeinu himself is bringing, saying Vahi b'shurun melech, that this whole Malchut, the whole kingdom, the person coming out and inheriting his land, all what does it depend on? Humility, anava. Ve'eretz hi dina de malchuta, k'mo shekatuv ve'eretz mitkomema lo. And we know Eretz, the land, is dina de malchuta. It's the judgment of the malchut. So it's elevating, k'mo shekatuv ve'eretz mitkomema lo. Mitkomema lo. Yeah, so I basically checked over there in Eov. It says, so Vahi b'shurun melech means that the malchut gets elevated. All the sparks of Kedusha go up to their shorish, to their source. Like it says in Tehillim, Va'anavim yirshu aretz, that humble people will inherit the land, and the land is the kingdom, is the malchut. So he's saying, he just basically is bringing this pasuk that Eretz, the word Eretz is Dina de Malchuta. It's talking about the judgment, the Malchut, the kingdom, like it says in Eov, Eretz ve'eretz mitkomema lo. So it's talking there about Malchut, of kingdom, and it uses the word Eretz. So Rabbeinu just brought a source from Eov to show that what David HaMelech said in Tehillim, that humble people will inherit the land. The word land, Eretz, is Dina de Malchuta. It's talking about the Malchut, which means he will inherit all of those sparks of holiness from the other side. And like we said, that it basically all depends, in order to be able to subdue, wipe out all of the entire, all the bad from within the sin, and flip the entire thing, take all the sparks of holiness out. It all depends on that nekuda of tzaddik, which depends on humility. Only a person who has real humility and comes in without any type of understanding, because if he comes with an understanding, he won't be able to do that process. It's interesting because Rabbeinu kind of starts off the Torah, and he hints it in other places as well, saying that the keeping of the entire Torah is going to depend at the end, meaning for a person to come to this ultimate redemption, his personal, redemption, his personal Mashiach, which is going to depend on this type of process of vidui, bringing the sins and doing this, fixing his malchut with his speech. It's going to be something that's going to apply to Yaakov Ish Tam. That's why he starts off the Torah, the Yaakov Ish Tam, and the whole Torah comes through Tiferet, which is Yaakov. It's teaching us this foundation that in order to be able to get close to Hashem and understand and keep the Torah properly, the two paths of Torah. It's easy to keep just, the good, do the mitzvahs and everything, but when a person falls, that's when he needs to, how do you keep now this part of the Torah? There's a way to also keep both and serve Hashem, walk in both pathways. Even when you crash, you're still on the pathway, you're still climbing. You're falling in Averas, but you're still climbing in Kedusha. So that pathway, to keep those two pathways of the Torah and the ups and the downs, is all going to depend on this type of tmimut, like just this simplicity of, I don't understand how it could be, right? That this is the solution for the problem, right? And it's possible it's going to work. But you do it anyhow, because the Rebbe said to do it, so you do it. Make a right, you make a right. Left. What Chazal say is that the faith you need to have in Talmidei Chachamim is that, like Reb Nachman, right, comes and gives you these eitzas. So they say even if the Talmid Chacham tells you on your right, left, or on your left, right, you have to, that's emunah. So what that means is, like, they're coming and telling you something that for you it's clear in your mind, like so clear that this is your right, this is the right thing. And they come and tell you, no, that actually is left. You all this time you thought that was right. No, this is left. This is right. So they're coming and tell you what's the bad for you, what's left. That's actually your right. So that's the type of beetles. You need to now say, oh, okay, so that's my right. Okay, that's my right. That's my left. No problem. Right? It's a type you need to really have a beetle. If you have come with an understanding of what the right and what the wrong thing is, from your own understanding, without complete bitul to the tzaddikim, what they say to do, then a person can't take their eitzos. Like Rav Nachman said, the main reason why you guys are far from me, right? The Hasidim, why they're not like close to the Torah, and that, he said it's simply because they don't have emunah in me. They're not keeping the eitzos. Rav Nachman says certain things. He says this, okay, no problem. Like you do what he says, right? He said this, do that, said this, but people don't follow. So Rav Nachman says certain things like for example, one of the reasons I got to the trying to explain it in this way is based on a Torah, a small Torah. Rav Nachman says that and a friend of mine from Israel reminded me that when I lived in Shoeva, I was talking to him about this thing about that you have to see the Torah on you and it's all about you. So funny because it was years ago and he remembered that. But so Rav Nachman is teaching a little Torah, saying that everywhere you learn, everywhere you see a Megillat Sefer, is you have to translate it all on you. Which means you're reading now about Moshe Rabbeinu, it's talking about you. About Am Yisrael in Egypt, talking about you. Everything's talking about you. And basically you need to now understand, how does that apply to me? What's it coming to teach me? Like the story with Shechem, Shechem, that like Dinah and Yosef and David HaMelech, those three things that happened in Shechem. What is it coming? The Gemara is just telling me, Shechem is a place of bad things because 3 bad things happened there. Oh wow, amazing. So that's a nice story, and that's it. It ends at that. How do I take now those words? And if it's a part of the Torah, the oral Torah, it's a part of me, part of your neshama. How do you take it and make it a part of you? So it's just a little example of what we gave last time, but it's in everything it's supposed to be that way. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should be able to do it because it's on one hand it's a very easy and simple process, but on the other hand you have to have this type of tmimut, simplicity, which Reb Natan, who was huge, his top student of Reb Nachman, before he passed away, he said, Torah and Tefillah, I'm willing to give, when I go up to the next world, I'm willing to give a din v'cheshbon, judgment on not, missing out, on using my time, when it comes to Torah and Tefillah. He was very, real yakir, he had a watch, and he would keep mamish every second. And when it came to the tmimut, he said that simplicity, that tmimut that Reb Nachman spoke about, I don't know if I was yotze that tmimut. And there's the whole story of the chacham and the tam, the wise son and the simpleton, and their pathways, where they ended up. And it's basically talking about the same person in the story. It's just talking about 2 different ways that the mind thinks. And when you read it, you realize, wow, I'm like 90% this chacham. And the tam is like, Rav Natan says you need to try, just go in the pathways of the tam, whatever Rav Nachman says about the way the tam acted, how he lived, his simplicity. And then at a certain point, they said the king goes through his book and he sees that there's a city, there's this chacham and tam, and he was curious, why are they called chacham and tam, the wise one and the simpleton? He wanted to meet them. So he didn't know what to do, because he said, if I send a letter directly from the king, right, they get a letter, the tam could die, the chacham won't have words to say. So he decided to get a chacham and tam from his kingdom, and send the simpleton, the tam, to the tam, and the chacham, the wise one, to the wise one. He sent letters with them and that. So they go and they get the letter from the king, and as soon as they get the letter, right, so the tam gets the letter, and he says, you're not joking, right? And as soon as the messenger of the king, Tam, the simpleton, told him, no, I'm not joking, I'm serious. It says he got so filled up with joy, and he ran to his house, right, and started grabbing his stuff. He was ready to jump onto the carriage to go meet the king. And his wife, asked him, where are you going? What? He didn't even have time to answer. He just went running into the carriage, jumped on, and when he got in, there was new garments. He put on garments, and then he went on, and the whole story continues. And the chacham, when he received the letter from the wise one, received the letter from the messenger of the king, the wise messenger of the king, he got the letter and he looked and he said, what's going on? The king's calling me? Why would the king be calling me? I mean, What does the king need to someone like me? I'm not worth nothing compared to, and even though he used to hold himself like the biggest chacham, he couldn't even talk to people because he felt like he was on such a high level of wisdom that it was just like everything they said was pathetic. He couldn't even talk to, he had nobody to talk to. Everywhere he stayed, he suffered because it was just not according to how it should be based on how great he is. And when he got the letter, he suddenly became like, why would the king? And he said you have to stay. He made the messenger sleep over and did a feast for him in the evening. So we got to talk about this and figure this out. And they started going to chachmas, from one chachma to chachma. He finally he's coming to conclusions. There's no king. And he's telling the messenger, did you ever see the king? Did you get the letter from the king? He said, no, I got it from the messenger. Did you ever actually see the king? He said, no, the truth is I didn't. Because the king, they don't come out, once in a... I happen to not see the king ever. So he starts convincing him. He convinces basically the messenger of the king as well that there's no king. And they go around now in the world, they're going from city to city, convincing it, speaking about this fact that there is no king. Right? So it's like this type of like getting this message, of these things that depend on this type of simplicity. What's Rav Nachman teaching in that story? That there's, when you receive wisdom, when a person gets, a piece of Torah, right, that's teaching him about this way, a certain pathway of how to start fixing mamish his kingdom, building his malchut kedusha, putting everything back into the right order, right, slowly wiping out that tape, getting rid of all that negative stuff, and building his malchut kedusha properly, so he can really start breathing and living in the world and not having this like shortage of breath and being completely consumed and from the other side and the negative thoughts and so on, right? And it's going to take this simple process, right? So in the story, the Tam, as soon as the messenger says, no, I'm not joking, I'm serious, he runs, he straight away jumps onto the carriage, and he puts on garments that they sent for him, right? So the garments corresponds to when a person comes up in knowledge and wisdom, he goes up a level, so it's considered like Chalukah Derabanan, he gets these garments. New garments is another level of understanding. So he already got and right over there, Rav Nachman says, and because his luck got lifted, he already started getting some wisdom. When a person's luck, lifts up, he gets a higher level of knowledge. So it's talking about that it's like this process that a person needs to do is such a simple process, but you need to be a real simpleton in order to be able to tap into this process and do it. Right? Once you start going into chachmat, you start asking, but this contradicts that, and what about this? What about that? Right? You get into like your chachmas, you could end up just getting further and further away from that thing that can actually bring you completely out of everything that you're in and fix your entire being. So Bezat Hashem, we'll get there. I mean, we're only at the beginning, and it's going to probably go deeper and deeper and deeper. And Bezat Hashem, I hope we can really continue it the way. I mean, for me, I don't know about you guys. For me, it's like I'm not so happy with the way I've been tying the whole thing in, just because I know it's so much deeper, and a lot of the stuff like I go over and I realize stuff lacking, and it could have been explained in a bit of a different way, and a lot of points that Rav Nachman points out that I missed, because it's like in one word, it's like he puts in a word and you're like, what's that word doing there? It's connected to that Torah. So Bezat Hashem, I'm hoping by the second or third time we go over the Torahs again, it'll get deeper and deeper, but hopefully we could just take at least the basics out of it and try slowly tie it in Torah by Torah, and hopefully see how it's all really one big Torah. That's what Rav Natan writes in the introduction. He says that really, even not just Rav Nachman's books, but even the whole Kabbalah, all the Etz Chaim and Pri Etz Chaim and the Arizal and the Zohar, it's all actually one long drush, one long Torah, and that's what it's supposed to be. So Bezat Hashem, I also have an idea that the whole, starting to see little bits here and there, but like that the whole entire Torah that we have is all just taking place inside of Adam Arishon's body. It's all in Komat Adam, which is a person. You're Komat Adam. So all the stories of Avram and Lot and the Shem of the Mashiach and this and that is all these things that are going on. It's all a story of what's taking place from within Adam Arishon's body after he got kicked out of the garden. And then Reb Nachman in Sipurim Masiyot, in the stories, he mamish teaches you, there's a whole story about the two sons that got switched, and they go into these tests he has in the garden, how to fix the garden, put everything back into order. So it's really all like, Bezat Hashem, one day we'll be able to tie in the Likutei Moharan and the 13 stories and the Torah we have, and like mamish tie and blend everything in. Because like I see stuff like the Gemara that I was learning in Sanhedrin, the one that's related to the sixth chapter here, I was reading over there, and the continuation of the Gemara is all talking about the beginning of the 5th lesson, this whole aspect of judgment. When there's a judgment, could you wipe out the judgment if it's already decreed in heaven, or could you only wipe it out before it was decreed? Like there was this whole mahalach in the Gemara, in the oral Torah, about that thing that. And then I looked over here in the 5th lesson, and I saw he's not even bringing that Gemara, and that Gemara is connected. It's like a continuation of. So it's really, you could see how it's all the oral Torah and the written Torah and the 13 stories and Likutei Moharan and B'ezrat Hashem, the 2,600 pages of Rav Natan in Likutei Halachot, like we started the Halachas of Pesach, but it's also all one big Torah. So I'm hoping one day, maybe in many years from now, I'll be able to just tie the entire thing in. B'ezrat Hashem. Anyhow, take care, guys. Hope it wasn't too slow. I'm just a little tired.